I gave myself to the Lord as a young man, probably in my early teens, and ran like the devil from that point on, struggling with who I was, and really got involved in a lot of bad things, drugs, sex, just not good places. But the Lord actually, in seeking Him, the Lord actually showed Himself to me through a dream, and in that dream, I was working, which seems like I always am, but even in my dream, I'm working. And in the dream, I was shown a set of stairs going down to a basement. And so knew I had to get down to the basement to do some stuff. So I went down to the basement, and it was a dark place, and all the temptations came out, all the drugs and alcohol and the women, the lust, everything was there. And I just knew I had to get out of there. I just was struggling. And then there was like one of these basement windows, that you would typically see in a basement, small. I could see my son playing with his toys in the sand, so I knew I got to get to my son. So I ran up the stairs, and when I got up to the top of the stairs, there he was, but also on the street was a parade. And I was like, what is this? And kind of beside myself. And then out of the parade, the only way I can describe it was this beast came out of the parade. It was like a saber-toothed tiger. He was just ripped with muscularly, and just you typically see something from the dinosauric age, and he was coming at me, or at us, me and my son and I, and but it was like he was held like with an invisible leash, but literally he was after me, so much so where the asphalt was rolling up like a carpet under his feet, and as he struggled to come towards me, and as I was just freaking out, I was raised up above the scene looking down at it, and could see my son, but see that saber-toothed tiger, if you will, just clawing towards him, and I was just screaming and screaming. And in the middle of all that screaming, I was handed this massive beam. I couldn't see the end of it, and I'm holding this thing, and in it there was tens of thousands of rusty nails, and they're all kind of like bent and crooked. I could see them like clear as day, and I'm grabbing the nails and bending and prying and just trying to break them off, and all of a sudden it began to rain, and it began to rain even harder and harder, and then all of a sudden this beam just kind of disappeared, and it rained so much so that the waters just washed the beast away. And I woke up and was kind of just beside myself, like, what is this? And try to interpret it, and it took some time. I actually got some counseling from a pastor in an area, and he actually, God revealed through him the revelation in the dream, and it was pretty amazing, because I kept going into that basement and going back to my past, and looking, being tempted and allowing those temptations to take place. And then when I came out of the basement, God lifted me up, and He showed me the beam, the cross, and all those nails, which were my sins. And what the Lord was saying is, you got to stop picking at your sin. I've washed you clean. And I washed away the enemy. He's defeated. I've lifted you up. And in that time frame, I was listening to another pastor who was talking about identity, and I realized, like, I kept looking at my past and using that as my identity. I wasn't the Lord's saying that I'm no longer a drug addict. I'm no longer the pervert or the person lusting after those things of the world. And then I've set you up, and I've washed away your sins. They're gone. They're dissolved. I need to stop going down into that basement, into that place. And it took some time. It wasn't like overnight. It was over actually a couple years where I got to that point, understanding who I am. Christ in me is the hope of glory, and it's been an amazing journey. It's been